On Willow Street, destinies don't usually begin with tape and torn paper, but this one does. A crooked notice whispers room for rent. Quiet. Affordable. Call Lucas Reed. Students snicker and pass. Isabella Monroe does not. She reads it twice, then a third time, as if the ink is calling her by a name. No one here knows the name of a billionaire's sheltered daughter who wants to be nobody for once. Across town, Lucas, a widower counting coins and courage, steels himself to open his door to a stranger. One tired home, one hidden heiress, one child who has been waiting for a sister-shaped miracle. When Isabella dials, the line connects more than voices. It strikes the first spark of a family neither dared to imagine. Lucas Reed. The man behind the notice had written it with a heavy heart. A 38-year-old widower. Lucas worked long shifts as an office clerk. His modest salary stretched thin between rent utilities and raising his spirited 8-year-old daughter, Clara James. Clara. The house he owned was small but warm, with creaking floors and peeling paint, a house that carried both the laughter of his daughter and the silence left behind by his late wife. Renting out the upper portion wasn't something he wanted to do. It was something he had to do. Isabella dialed the number. Hello? The voice that answered was deep, tired, and cautious. Hi, I saw your notice. Is the room still available? There was a pause long enough to make her wonder if she'd dialed the wrong number. Then came a quiet reply. Yes, you can come by today if you'd like. The Lucas Reed house stood at the far end of a narrow lane tucked between two tall hedges. Isabella hesitated outside, her suitcase in hand. For someone like her, accustomed to drivers, bodyguards, and sprawling mansions, this was unfamiliar ground. But no one here knew she was the daughter of Chief Marcus Blake, one of the city's wealthiest businessmen, and that was exactly how she wanted it. Sam. Lucas opened the door himself. His dark hair was unkempt, his shirt sleeves rolled up, and there was a cautious kindness in his eyes. He sized her up in a moment, not in judgment, but in that careful way of a father who thinks of safety first. You're Isabella? He asked. She nodded. Before. Lucas could continue. A small figure peeked from behind his legs. Big, curious eyes, messy brown pigtails clutching a stuffed rabbit. Is she the one, Daddy? The little girl whispered loudly, earning a faint chuckle from Isabella. Lucas cleared his throat. This is my daughter. She'll be around a lot. If that's a problem. It's not, Isabella interrupted softly, bending down to Clara's level. Hi there, I'm Sue. Isabella. The child studied her for a long moment, then grinned. You can stay. You look nice. It was such an innocent decree that even Lucas couldn't help but smile for the first time in days. Upstairs, the room was modest. Bare walls, a small window overlooking the street, a bed with worn sheets. To most, it might have felt too plain. To whom? Isabella. It felt strangely perfect. She set her suitcase down, her heart beating, with a mix of nerves and relief. Rent is due at the end of each month. Lucas said, standing in the doorway with that same careful tone. I'll keep things fair, and if you need anything, just knock. Isabella met his gaze, steady and calm. Thank you. I think this will work. She didn't tell him she could have rented the most expensive apartment in the city with a single swipe of her card. She didn't tell him her father would be furious if he knew she was here, because for the first time in her life, Isabella Monroe wasn't looking for luxury. She was looking for something else entirely. And neither she nor Lucas had the faintest idea how much this simple arrangement would change all their lives. The first night. Isabella spent in the upper portion of the Chant Reed house was strangely quiet. She was used to polished marble floors, echoing hallways, and the constant hum of staff going about their duties. Here the silence was broken only by the faint creak of the floorboards beneath her bed and the occasional laughter of Clara, drifting up from downstairs. It wasn't luxury, but it was real. The next morning, Isabella awoke to the smell of pancakes. Following her nose, she found Clara sitting at the small kitchen table, swinging her legs, while Lucas flipped pancakes in an old pan that had clearly seen better days. Clara spotted her first. "Good morning, Isabella," she chirped, waving her fork like a magic wand. Lucas glanced up briefly. "You don't have to come down, you know. Your portion has its own little kitchen." Isabella smiled. "Yes, but I thought maybe I could help." "Help?" Lucas raised an eyebrow. "You're a tenant, not a cook." Before Isabella could answer, Clara hopped off her chair. "Can she help me with homework?" "Daddy, please." Isabella crouched down. "What homework is it, math?" Clara groaned dramatically, scrunching her nose. "It's evil." Isabella laughed softly. "I used to think the same thing." And just like that, the first thread of a bond was woven. Over the next few days, Isabella settled into a rhythm. She attended college in the mornings, came home in the afternoons, and spent evenings often downstairs, helping Clara with schoolwork, listening to her stories, or even reading her bedtime tales when Lucas returned late from work. It wasn't long before Clara started calling her big sister. One evening while Isabella braided Clara's hair, Lucas stood in the doorway, arms crossed. His tired face softened as he watched the two. For years, Clara had only known his care, his voice, his efforts, and while he never complained, he knew Clara had longed for a motherly presence, some feminine warmth that he simply couldn't provide. He cleared his throat. "She's taken quite a liking to you." Isabella glanced up, smiling faintly. "She's easy to like." Lucas studied her for a moment longer. There was something about Isabella, her manners, her speech, even the way she carried herself, that didn't quite fit with the idea of a struggling student. But he pushed the thought aside. After all, everyone had their mysteries. The hints of Isabella's hidden life slipped out in little ways. Her phone, sleek and expensive, once lit up with dozens of messages in a group chat titled Monroe, Family Gala. She quickly silenced it, pretending it was nothing. When Clara asked if she'd ever been to a fancy restaurant, Isabella smiled knowingly, but didn't answer. Instead, she asked Clara what her favorite food was, and when Clara whispered chocolate chip cookies, Isabella promised to bake them one day. Another time when Lucas's old car broke down. Isabella offered to pay for the repairs, but she disguised it as, "I know a cheap mechanic." Lucas Boitum politely declined, his pride stronger than his exhaustion. Still, she found quiet ways to help. She'd bring home groceries and claimed they were 2-for-1 deals. She slipped a pair of new pencils into Clara's bag and said they were extras from college. Clara never questioned it, but Lucas noticed. Late one night after Clara had fallen asleep, Lucas stepped outside to lock the gate. He found Isabella sitting on the porch, staring up at the night sky. "Do you like it here?" he asked quietly. Isabella turned to him, her green eyes reflecting the porch light. "This more than I thought I would. Most students don't want to live in an old, creaky house with a single dad and a kid." Isabella's smile was gentle, almost sad. "Most students aren't looking for what I'm looking for." Lucas frowned slightly, curiosity stirring. "And what's that?" Isabella hesitated, then whispered, "A place that feels like home." Lucas didn't press further. He simply nodded, though the words lingered in his chest long after he went inside. Neither of them knew it then, but the fragile threads of trust and belonging were already weaving themselves into something neither wealth nor hardship could have ever bought. Jobs. Lucas Reed was a man who knew how to stretch every penny. Isabella noticed it in the way he poured the last drop of milk into Clara's cereal and then filled his own cup with water instead. She noticed it when he stitched the sole of his old shoes rather than buying new ones. And she noticed it when he walked Clara to school in the rain, holding his worn coat over her head while he himself got soaked. These small details spoke louder than words. Lucas was a man who carried the weight of the world quietly without asking for help. One Saturday morning, Clara tugged at Isabella's sleeve. Isabella. "Daddy said, we can't go to the fun fair this year. Tickets cost too much." Her little voice wavered, though she tried to sound brave. "But I don't mind." Shocked. Isabella's heart tightened. That evening she searched online for discount vouchers, determined to make Clara smile. A week later, Clara squealed with delight as the three of them entered the fairgrounds. When Lucas frowned at the tickets, Isabella quickly said, "They were free passes from my college, a promotion." Narrowed his eyes, but said nothing. Claraton's laughter was too precious to ruin with suspicion. Isabella continued her quiet kindness. She left grocery bags on the counter, always with the same explanation: 2-for-1 deals. She slipped fresh notebooks into Clara's school bag, claiming her professors gave her extras. When Lucas's old car refused to start one morning, she arranged for a mechanic to fix it, leaving money in an envelope with a note: college refund. Lucas wasn't a fool. He noticed. He just didn't know what to say. Pride and gratitude wrestled inside him, but he let the charade stand, partly because Isabella's kindness was offered with such respect. One night, Clara had fallen asleep on the couch, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Lucas gently covered her with a blanket before stepping onto the porch. He found Isabella there sipping tea, her eyes distant. You do a lot for us, Lucas said quietly. Isabella turned startled. I just, well, Clara's like a little sister to me. He studied her for a long moment. You buy more than you should. Groceries, school supplies, even those fare tickets. Isabella's chest tightened. Do you want me to stop? Lucas shook his head. No, I just wonder why. Isabella hesitated. She couldn't tell him the truth that she was the daughter of one of the city's richest men choosing to live a simple life. Instead, she whispered, because sometimes giving feels better than receiving. The next day, Lucas's pride was tested again. Clara's shoes had worn thin holes peeking through the soles. He sighed, planning to patch them. But Isabella returned from college with a pair of bright new shoes, claiming they were from a friend who'd bought the wrong size. Clara squealed, hugging Isabella tightly. You're the best. Lucas wanted to protest, but Clara's joy silenced him. That night he sat by his desk, staring at the bills. Life had been hard since his wife passed away. Yet here was this young woman, his tenant, softening the edges of his hardship without demanding anything in return. Later that week, Clara tugged Isabella toward someone, Lucas, as they sat in the living room. Daddy, can Isabella stay forever? She asked innocently. Lucas chuckled, ruffling Clara's hair. That's not how life works, sweetheart. Isabella, however, felt a lump in her throat because deep down she realized she wanted to stay too. And while Lucas still saw her as just a kind student, the truth was far more complicated. One day soon, her hidden world would come knocking on his door. It began on a quiet Sunday afternoon. Clara was drawing rainbows on scraps of paper while Isabella helped Lucas fix a leaky faucet in the kitchen. The atmosphere was warm, ordinary, just another day in their unusual little household. Then a black luxury car rolled to a stop outside the Shaw Reed home. Its glossy finish reflected the sun, its tinted windows sealing off the world. The car didn't belong to their street. It didn't even belong to their neighborhood. Lucas frowned, wiping his hands on a towel. Now who could that be before Isabella could answer? The car door opened. A tall man in a tailored suit stepped out at his presence, commanding. His silver hair gleamed, his shoes untouched by dust. Neighbors peeked through their curtains, whispering. Isabella froze. She knew that car. She knew that man. Her father. Marcus Blake. Isabella. His voice cut through the air like a blade. I've been looking everywhere for you. Clara blinked in confusion. Lucas stepped protectively in front of her, his posture tense. Who are you? The man's sharp gaze landed on Chuck Lucas, then softened slightly when it shifted to Clara. Finally, it returned to Voiceton. Isabella. I'm her father, and she has no business living in a place like this. Gasps rippled from the neighbors watching outside. Lucas turned to Camus. Isabella, searching her face, saw. Father. Isabella's throat tightened. She nodded slowly, guilt flashing in her green eyes. This is my dad. Lucas staggered back as if the floor had shifted beneath him. The tenant he had welcomed into his home wasn't just a student. She was the daughter of one of the wealthiest men in the city. Marcus stepped closer, his voice heavy with authority. "Pack your things, Isabella. You're coming home. Enough of this charade." Isabella shook her head. "Not yet." His tone was incredulous. "You've been living in—" He gestured at the modest house with disdain. "This place with strangers when you have everything waiting for you at home. A mansion. Comfort." Isabella's voice trembled, but her resolve was steady. "That's just walls and money. Here, I found something more." Clara tugged at Chauta. Isabella shone, his hand whispering, "Don't go." Marcus glanced at the little girl, then at his expression flickering with disapproval. "This man can't provide what you need. He can't protect you. Isabella, he can't give you the life you deserve." Lucas's pride bristled. "I never claimed I could," he said firmly. "But she's been safe here and respected." Isabella stepped between them. "Dad, please, you don't understand. This family, Lucas and Clara, they gave me something our mansion never could. Warmth, a sense of belonging." For a moment, silence hung thick in the air. The neighbors continued to watch their whispers carrying like wind. Marcus' jaw tightened. "Isabella, you're my daughter. Your place is with me, not here." Isabella met his eyes with quiet strength. "Maybe I am your daughter. But here for the first time I felt like a sister, like part of a family that didn't see me as a name or a fortune. Just me." Her father faltered, the steel in his expression cracking for a brief instant. He had never heard her speak with such conviction. Inside the house, Clara clung to Opsu. Isabella was arm. "You're not leaving, right?" Isabella knelt beside her, brushing back her hair. "I don't want to. Not unless I have to." Lucas stood quietly, his emotions tangled. He wanted us, Isabella, to stay, yet he knew she didn't belong to their world. Still, when he saw the tears in Claret's eyes, his heart ached. Finally, Marcus exhaled heavily. "We'll discuss this at home, Isabella." But for now, his eyes swept the room, resting reluctantly on Lucas. "I see this place means something to you, Shaw." Isabella straightened her hands, still clasping. "Clara, it means everything." And for the first time, Marcus Blake realized his daughter's heart might be richer than all his wealth combined. Reached to. House had never felt so heavy. The quiet warmth Isabella had come to love was replaced with silence that pressed against the walls. Lucas sat at the edge of the couch, staring at the bills scattered across his desk, while not Isabella lingered by the window, her hands gripping the curtain tightly. Clara, sensing the tension, curled up with her stuffed rabbit, her usual cheer replaced by worry. Lucas finally spoke, his voice low but steady. "Isabella, your father's right. You don't belong here." Isabella turned sharply, her eyes flashing with hurt. Don't say that. I chose to be here with you with Clara. He sighed, rubbing his temples. You're different. Anyone can see it. Your manners, the way you carry yourself, even the way you hide little acts of generosity. I should have guessed you weren't just another student. Isabella Dome stepped closer. So what if I'm different? That doesn't change how I feel about this place. Lucas looked up at her, his dark eyes weary. You deserve more than creaky floorboards and patched shoes. You deserve safety comfort things I can't give you. Isabella Zhang's voice trembled, though she stood tall. Do you think comfort matters more than love, than laughter around a small dinner table? Do you think a mansion filled with servants feels like home? Lucas hesitated. Her words stirred something deep within him, but his pride was louder. Isabella, your father can give you everything. I can barely give Clara enough. Some. Clara, who had been silent, suddenly burst out. But you give me everything. Daddy. Her little voice cracked, tears welling in her eyes. She ran to Isabella, clutching her hand. And Isabella makes us happy. Please don't make her go. Isabella knelt beside Clara, hugging her tightly. I'm not going anywhere, sweetheart, she whispered, though her own eyes brimmed with tears. Chop Chong. Lucas's chest tightened at the sight. He wanted to believe her. He wanted her to stay. But reality pressed down harder than hope. That evening, Marcus Blake returned expecting Isabella to have packed. Instead, he found her sitting at the dinner table with Lucas and Clara, sharing a simple meal of soup and bread. Clara was giggling. Isabella, smiling softly, and Lucas, though quiet, watched with an expression Marcus couldn't quite decipher. Marcus's voice boomed. Isabella, enough of this nonsense. Come home. Isabella rose to her feet. Home. Dad. This feels more like home than that mansion ever did. Marcus frowned. You're blinded by sentiment. This man he pointed at, Lucas, can't give you stability. Lucas stood his jaw tight. He's right. I can't. His words were like a knife through Isabella's soul's heart. He turned to her, forcing strength into his voice. Isabella, you need to go with him. You'll have a future there. Isabella shook her head fiercely. My future is my choice, and right now I choose to stay. The room fell into silence. Clara Poon. Small hand clutched. Isabella shone. Her tear-streaked face looking between the adults. Why can't she stay with us forever? She pleaded. For once, Marcus was silent. His daughter's defiance, the child's innocence, and Josh Lucas's quiet dignity all struck him at once. He saw not just a struggling father, but a man who carried love with strength no fortune could replicate. Isabella's voice softened. Dad, can't you see here? I'm not a millionaire's daughter. I'm just me, and that's all I want to be. Marcus exhaled slowly, his shoulders dropping. For the first time, his certainty faltered. Lucas, torn between pride and longing, looked at Isabella, knowing that no matter what decision was made, nothing would ever be the same again. The night after, Marcus Blakeshaw's confrontation lingered like a storm cloud. Isabella Shome barely slept, her mind torn between loyalty to her father and the warmth she had found in the Pinto. Reed home. Lucas paced the small living room, the weight of unspoken feelings pressing on him, and Clara, innocent, yet perceptive, clutched her rabbit as though afraid it might all slip away. The next morning, Marcus returned, this time without the sharp authority of a businessman. His suit jacket hung over his arm, his face lined with exhaustion. For once, he looked less like a tycoon and more like a weary father. Isabella, he began, his voice softer. I don't understand why you've chosen this life, but I see you found something here, something money never gave you. Isabella's eyes widened. You mean you'll let me stay? Marcus hesitated, then nodded slowly. If this is what you want, then yes. I won't force you, but at least allow me to make sure you're cared for. His gaze shifted to Kaka. Lucas. And you, Mr. Reed. You've done something I could not. You gave my daughter a sense of belonging. Lucas stiffened. I didn't do anything extraordinary. Marcus shook his head. Extraordinary doesn't always mean expensive. Sometimes it's simply human. A fragile peace settled over the room. Marcus didn't try to take Isabella away again. Instead, he asked quietly, What do you need? Lucas opened his mouth to protest, but Isabella spoke first. We don't need anything. We already have what matters. Yet, Marcus wasn't blind. He saw the thin shoes by the door, the patched curtains, the stack of unpaid bills on the table. His fortune had bought him power. But standing here, he realized these people had something priceless. Love. He cleared his throat. At least allow me to support Clara to schooling. Consider it my way of thanking you for looking after Tomo. Isabella. Lucas hesitated. Pride battling practicality. But when Clara's eyes lit up at the mention of school, he finally nodded. All right, but nothing more. Isabella smiled through tears. Thank you, Dad. Life slowly settled back into rhythm. Isabella continued her classes, still living in the upper portion of the Reed home. Clara thrived now, boasting new school supplies and shoes, though she still insisted her favorite part of the day was Isabella's bedtime stories. Lucas Mai remained cautious, but each evening when he returned from work, seeing Isabella and Fatan Clara laughing together softened the walls around his heart. She had become more than a tenant. She was family. One evening, as the three of them sat down to dinner, Isabella caught Lucas's gaze. For a moment, the silence spoke volumes. The gratitude he couldn't put into words, the affection she couldn't yet confess. Clara broke the quiet with her cheerful voice. This feels like forever, doesn't it? Lucas chuckled softly. What do you mean, sweetheart? Clara grinned. Like Papa. Isabella. We'll always be here. Like we're a real family. Isabella Chum's throat tightened, but she smiled. Maybe forever starts with moments like this. Later that night, Marcus stood outside the house watching through the window as laughter filled the small dining room. For the first time in years, he didn't see his daughter as the lonely girl in a mansion. He saw her happy, truly happy. He whispered to himself, perhaps she was right all along. Inside, Lucas, Isabella, and South Clara clinked their glasses of water in a simple toast. No grand feast, no chandeliers, just warmth, laughter, and belonging. And as Isabella looked around the modest room, she realized the truth she had been chasing all along. Sometimes the richest treasures are not found in fortune, but in the hearts that open their doors.